In this episode of Fictional Hangover, we talk about speaking in italics, understanding the assignment with hats and being attacked by pink fuzz, not being opposed to cannibalism, a huge herculean homHUNKulus, and how Miss Gail brings people together in our discussion of Soulless, Parasol Protectorate, Book the First by Gail Carriger. You have to do the full title. You have to do the full on everything.
Absolutely.
Don't want to do the colons. What's the point?
Now, ugh. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fictional Hangover, a podcast about young adult and new adult, and sometimes other books, series, authors, voice actors, and illustrators that is full of spoilers. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Claire.
And I'm SuperFan Annie, and today we're going to discuss Soulless by Gail Carriger.
Yay!
I'm so excited for this.
Yay! Standard disclaimer. If you haven't read this book, please remember that Fictional Hangover is all about spoilers. If you haven't read or listened and don't want to be spoiled, stop listening to us and go read or listen to the book. Then come back. If you haven't done this but want to pretend that you have, or if you don't care about spoilers, or if you just like the show so much that you don't care about any of that, then listen up.
Again, I say,
Woo! Woo! Yay!
right, I'm so excited for this. I'm too excited. Let's just pause for 1 second and go give us the background information just so we can get into this.
Yes, we need to. We need to do that. The background info that I found is the first interview I ever did as an author from Miss Gail's website, which is a fantastic place to while away the hours. And you will see yours truly on many of her pages in many different outfits.
Over that.
I'm
Hashtag
all
not
over
humble
that
brag.
website. I love it. The coolest thing ever. Okay. So this is an interview conducted by Orbit way back in 2008.
Oh.
Wow. Did you just turn to dust? I turned to dust.
Oh, I'm so old. I'm already creaking.
Okay, so the interviewer asks, Soulless has such a clever melding of alternate history, romance, and the supernatural. How did you derive the idea for this novel? This is a long response, everyone, but it's Miss Gail, and every word that she has ever spoken in life deserves to be repeated. So I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read her whole response.
Ooh.
I knew I wanted to write urban fantasy, and there's one thing I've never been able to understand in the genre. If immortals were mucking about, wouldn't they have been mucking about for a very long time? A speculation arose. What if all those strange and unexplainable bends in history were the result of the supernatural interference? At which point I asked myself, what's the weirdest, most eccentric historical phenomenon of them all? Answer, the Great British Empire. Clearly, one tiny little island could only conquer half the known world with supernatural aid. Those absurd Victorian manners and ridiculous fashions were obviously dictated by vampires. And without a doubt, the British Army regimental system functioned on werewolf pack dynamics. Of course, as soon as I started scribbling away about a land of bustles and top hats, romance and comedy had to enter the fray. I mean to say, bustles. Then I tossed 19th century science into the mix and realized that if the Victorians were studying vampires and werewolves, which they would do if they knew about them, not to mention developing weapons against them, technology would have evolved differently. Enter a sprinkling of steampunk, and suddenly I was juggling more subgenres than Ivy has ugly hats. But then again, you can never have too many hats.
Evergreen statement.
So lovely.
Evergreen statement.
Yes.
I feel that we have understood the assignment.
Definitely. Definitely. Oh, and this episode, everyone, since it is the resurrection of Vampire Book Club, is that the appropriate word?
Let's go with resurrection.
Resurrection. We'll go with resurrection.
Yes. This episode will be available for everyone to watch
Ooh.
freely without even having to join our Patreon.
Hi. Hello.
So everyone should stop what you're doing if you're listening to it and go find it and watch it instead. Because we're all very beautiful.
YouTube,
Yes.
Patreon.
Yes. We're
Not to
haunted.
mention, we all have awesome hats on.
We
So
have so many awesome hats on. And also, everyone, we're joined by Superfan Annie, which is amazing.
I have been begging you to let me come talk about Soulless. Like, please, when are we going to talk about Soulless? When are we
We
going to talk
had
about
to wait
Soulless?
for the perfect moment, and that
We
perfect
did.
moment is the
It's the
resurrection of
perfect
Vampire
moment.
Book Club.
Yes. Well, and I was noticing when I was looking up things that I'm almost to, I think January 25th is my Vampire Book Club anniversary, the first time I joined during the pandemic when we were all locked down.
Oh,
And my post was something along the lines of sometimes you just need a reason to get dressed, and sometimes that is to talk about vampires on the internet.
100% again.
Oh, that's
Damn,
amazing.
that's good. I like that.
Yes.
January 25th, yes.
Wow. That is amazing. I can't believe you've been with us for that long. I can't believe we've been doing this podcast for that long. What
Again,
is
we are creaky
time?
and old.
Oh,
We are creaky. And this is the whole reason why I have a Facebook is so it can be my online diary to remind me that yes, on this day I got together with you all and talked about vampires.
I love that
me
so
too. Me
much.
too. Me too. Oh, is that your initial thoughts for this episode, Annie? Or do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, my initial thoughts were because I looked up when I found that I was looking up to see when I read it, and what did I come up with? Actually started with finishing school because I discovered Miss Gail on Litzy. There's a whole crowd of Litzy people who love Miss Gail. And so I decided I wanted to read chronologically. So I started with the finishing school, and then I did Poison and Protect. And that was the only one of the Delightfully Deadlies that were out at that time. And then I got to Soulless. So I think I did all of the finishing school in like November of 2016. And the first time I read Soulless was 20 December 2016. So and as you know, last year I did the great 2024 Parasol verse reread. So this is actually my sixth time to read Soulless.
Wow, nice.
I've joined
It's
in Miss
amazing.
Gail's readathon. I've read it for a book club. Yeah, various things. And, it's part of my origin story with you all
Mm.
because when I started following Miss Gail, she was going to do the Fictional Hangover challenge, that book club challenge that year. So that led me to you. So
Oh.
it's the Vampire Book Club.
Miss Gail brings people together because she's a key member of our origin story as well. So,
Yes.
She
Yes.
just brings us all together. So,
Yes.
and there is one thing that I always strikes me when I first start reading, but I'm going to save it for my final thought quote.
Okay. Okay.
cool.
It's perfect.
I think I must be the only person who actually has read Miss Gail in publication order and not story chronology order because I first read as they were coming out.
Mm.
So I bought them as they were released. But I don't have my original set anymore. I loaned them to a friend, and that friend said they gave them back. They did not.
Mm.
I have
Lies.
replaced the lies they
Lying
tell me to my
liars.
face to this day. But
Ugh.
yeah, I feel like I'm the only person who's actually read her in publication order.
Yeah, I started with finishing school and then I went to Custard Protocol and then I did Parasol Protectorate.
That's a unique way of doing it.
It's very weird.
And there was a point where I got to where I had caught up. And I think the first one that I read when it came out on the day of was Competence.
Mm.
So there was like it took me a little while. And I was reading them all from the library, so sometimes I would have to wait for one, and then when I get it, I would like binge it, and then, then I bought them all, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I started with finishing school and bought them as they were being released. So then I bought, no, I didn't. Then I did the library for the rest of them. But I'm buying them all now. I just don't have a lot of shelf space.
Well, we historically know that my libraries are rubbish, so I buy
Yeah,
books.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Anywho, shall we
Well,
delve into the summary?
we should. We definitely should do that. Miss Alexia Terabody, a spinster, alone in a library instead of attending a ball, about to enjoy a delicious treacle tart, is attacked by a vampire. Ah. As the vampire begins to bite down on the gentle lady's neck, he realizes that his fangs have disappeared. He backs off, and his fangs return. So he tries again, which is simply not done. Alexia removes a wooden stick, or stake, as it were, from her hair and pins it to the vampire's chest. She explains to him that she is a preternatural. She has no soul, and her touch temporarily drains the excess soul from supernatural creatures like vampires and werewolves, returning them to their human forms. He pretends to understand, then tries to choke her, causing her to stumble back. She prepares to defend herself with her parasol, quite an ugly, horrible thing, and while doing so, pushes the stake into the vampire's heart. Oops!
Oopsie.
A group of dandies arrive at the library then and cause a ruckus, so Alexia has no choice but to feign a faint. Oh!
A lady should always know how to swoon. Lord
Mm.
Macon, an agent of Burr, the Bureau of Unnatural Registry, and Alpha Werewolf of the Wolseley Pack, along with his beta, Professor Lyle, come to investigate the murder of the vampire. Lord Macon seems perturbed by Alexia's presence, and she knows it's because of the hedgehog incident. But readers will instantly pick up on something more flirtatious than a hedgehog.
Oh!
Ooh.
They examine the body and determine, with Alexia's assistance, that the vampire was recently metamorphosized by a vampire queen outside of Burr regulations, not trained in hive etiquette, and potentially starved and unleashed on purpose. Alexia wonders why she can't work for Burr, as she'd be a great asset, but Lord Macon tells her it's because she's a noble woman. What would her mother say if she got a job?
Oh!
A job?
Oh! Oh!
The two werewolves leave, one wondering why such a lovely lady is not married yet.
Mm. Mm.
After breakfast with her mother, Mrs. Loontwill, and her half sisters Felicity and Evelyn, and stepfather Squire Loontwill, wherein her sisters discuss the events of the night before, including but not limited to murder, Alexia leaves the table to enjoy a walk in the park. Alexia is a bit more serious than her younger sisters. They were curious about everyone's dresses at the ball, and that Alexia spoke to Lord Macon, the Earl of Wolsey, but not really about the murder. They're also put off by the fact that the new Gentlemen's Club for Scientists, the Hippocrates Club, is opening next door to the house where the ball was held. But Alexia is curious about the whole thing. Alexia's mother has thought more than once if it wouldn't have been easier had Alexia been born male instead of female, what with her curiosity, her swarthy features, that nose. Why, oh, why was her first husband, her late husband, an Italian?
Oh,
Oh
oh, it's ghastly.
my gosh!
The only thing worse would be an American.
Oh,
No,
oh,
no!
oh. Alexia's walk through Hyde Park is not alone, but with her best friend and eccentric hat lover, Ivy Hisselpenny. The two walk and talk about the ball, the vampire attack with its parasol bunking and the accidental murder, and Lord Macon. They watch a dirigible land, which Alexia is enthralled by, and then are greeted by a woman, Mabel Dare, the actress, who invites Alexia to meet with Countess Nadasdy, the Westminster vampire hive queen. That's not very typical. It's not typical at all for non-supernatural people to be invited to visit with a vampire queen. They either want to recruit her as a drone or drain her dry. Alexia puts off the invitation until the next night. Tonight, she must meet with her friend and rove vampire, Lord Akeldama, one of the very best vampires ever in existence.
At her house later, completely empty apart from Flute the butler, Alexia has a delightful dinner with Lord Akeldama that is full of italics.
No.
He wants to keep Alexia safe and keep their conversation secret, so he employs a very scientific tuning fork to conceal their chat from any supernaturally listening ears that might be trying to eavesdrop. Alexa comes to learn that he, a vampire greater than 400 years old, has no idea what is going on and why anyone would want to kill her or why Countess Nadasdy wants to see her. He sexily it suggests that Alexia meet with Lord Macon and see if he knows anything with using her feminine wiles. Because surely
Ooh.
Burr has some idea of what's going on. Oh, the italics. Oh,
It's my favorite
Alexia
thing about him.
Everything is in italics. Alexia goes to see Lord Macon, and the flirtation between them is very clear to anyone who has ever met either of them, and probably everyone reading the book. She learns that vampires have a scent detectable by werewolves and that the vampire who attacked her was made by someone from the Westminster Hive. But only vampire queens are able to change people. It's possible that a vampire bite daughter could be responsible, but unlikely. It's a good thing Alexia has agreed to visit with Countess Nadasdy,
I think we're all going to say it in different fashions.
Nadasdy, so she can find out what's going on. Lord Macon doesn't want her to go because the meeting is dangerous since she is soulless, and according to some vampires, their natural balance, which isn't a good thing. He insists on taking her home, and she requests that he drop her off far away from her house because her mother does not know of her interest in these goings on. Lord Macon agrees because he does not want to damage her reputation. Ha! She's a spinster, so there won't be any damage to her reputation. More likely it would be damage to his. He wonders why he's so bothered so much by this woman he doesn't even truly like.
That's not true at all.
It's not true at all.
he wants to boink her.
Professor Lyle is out investigating queens and roves at other Burr offices and discovers at the Canterbury office that there are no roves as they've all gone missing. Then he learns that there are no lone wolves either for the same reason. There's only one lone wolf left, and he gives this information to Lyle, thinking that Lord Macon has arranged for all the lone wolves to be killed off so as not to be a problem. That is not the case.
Alexia takes a cab to the Westminster Hive and is greeted by one very, very French maid, Angelique, a drone, Mabel Dare, and several vampires, Countess Nadasdy, Lord Ambrose, Dr. Caries, and the Duke of Hematol. The Countess grabs Alexia and turns human, much to the disgust of the other vampires, who think Alexia is a preternatural, is a threat. But the Countess isn't worried. She is, however, afraid of and curious about what is happening with the random starving wolf showing up. She longs for a way to metamorphose vampires without the bite of a queen, since it doesn't always work. But despite all the scientific advancement she is surrounded by, even in her own home, she is unaware of such a possibility, so has no idea what's going on either. This book should be
Well,
called Clueless, not Soulless.
As if. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, do not apologize. That was perfect. Oh,
when Alexia leaves, getting back into her own cab, she's surprised to find a stranger already inside, a waxen man with an odd smell and a VIXI on his forehead. He attacks her with a chloroformed handkerchief, and she screams and kicks, and soon a growl comes from outside, followed by a thud. Alexia falls from the carriage and on to Lord Macon, who is obviously waiting in the shadows to keep her safe if she should encounter any trouble. Well, she did, but now the weird man has vanished. Alexia is confused about how Lord Macon attacked someone and immediately redressed himself, not having seen a transformation outside of books, but knowing it's difficult and done nakedly. He shows her his Anubis form, which that sounds dirty. He shows her his Anubis form, something that alphas and very old werewolves can do, just transforming their heads. She transforms him back with a touch, and they walk along the street together, looking for another cab. He insists on keeping her safe and guarded, but the full moon is coming soon, and he won't be able to watch over her. When he gets jealous of her suggestion that she can stay with Lord Akeldama, and she calls him out on it, he abruptly kisses her.
No. Their kiss lingers for quite some time and deepens considerably into posterior squeezing and neck biting in public.
yes.
Unfortunately, it is interrupted by Professor Lyle, who has tracked his alpha down to alert him to what he discovered in Canterbury. All the lone wolves have disappeared. Alexia mentions the same thing of the roves. Lord Macon deduces that someone wants them and Alexia dead, so he insists on keeping his watch over her. When she wakes the next morning, Professor Lyle is outside keeping watch instead, but only so Lord Macon could go and get some rest. Ivy comes to call, and Alexia tells her best friend all about the kissing, which she finds curious as they don't seem to like each other very much at all.
But it keeps each other quiet. That sentiment follows at a dinner party later. Lord Macon and Alexia are both in attendance and purposefully and shamelessly avoiding one another. Alexia assumes this is because Lord Macon is giving her an out, but she seems to want to be more involved with him, not less. Oh well, as she is a spinster after all, she should be used to this life. An American scientist, Dr. McDougall, pulls her into a conversation about weighing souls and how doing so would improve metamorphosis prospects. He seems to not know about her soullessness at all. He mentions the Hippocrates Club and calling on her again later to continue chatting. But Alexia is more interested in the young woman blatantly flirting with Lord Macon. Later, Lord Macon grumbles to Professor Lyle about Alexa ignoring him. After all, he made the first move, and now it's up to her to follow up. But Professor Lyle reminds Lord Macon that yes, that is what is supposed to happen with alpha werewolves and alpha females. Alexia is not a werewolf, and therefore Lord Macon must apologise and grovel to win her back. Yes, you must grovel.
Must grovel.
You must grovel. Alexia goes on an outing with the American scientist, and he seems rather pleased with Alexia's interest and ability to converse scientifically about the soul. His brother was turned in the colonies against his will, and his family immediately disowned him, being too religious and thinking anyone metamorphosed to be undead and thus in league with the devil. Mr. McDougall wants to be able to measure the amount of soul one has before they are metamorphosed to ensure the change will occur, meaning fewer people will die from the attempt. Unfortunately, no one knows how to measure the soul. While he blathers on, Alexia notices they are being followed by Professor Lyle, who accidentally knocks into a man carrying something that Alexia cannot make out. She asks Lyle about it later after Mr. McDougall drops her at home, and he is very wary what with the full moon coming soon. He does not say what the man he knocked into had with him, but it was a syringe.
Oh.
Oh.
Lord Macon is waiting for Alexia in her parlor. Professor Lyle hopes he will grovel appropriately. And he does.
Yay!
Yay! After a bit of back and forth about why he behaved as he did at the dinner party, Alexia apologizes for not being well learned in the art of kissing. She's a 26-year-old Italian spinster, after all, and not very pretty. But Lord Macon assures her that he likes Italians and thinks normal girls are boring. The groveling begins, and he apologizes for it being close to the full moon and that he was not in control of himself. Alexia decides to take matters into her own hands here and wriggles on his lap, causing a delightful enlargening in the nether region of Lord Macon. Called Connell now because obviously they've moved past formalities. Lap
Ooh.
wriggling. Oh, in italics.
Scandalous.
Oh.
Oh, all the italics. I'm loving the italics. Unfortunately, as usual, Ivy and Professor Lyle arrive then, interrupting them because they knock on the parlour door. Ivy to see her friend, Professor Lyle to share whispered news. Unfortunately, this means Connell must leave at once. No more wiggling and no more kissing.
Mm.
Alexa questions Professor Lyle about what exactly is going on with his alpha, romantically, not supernaturally, and he informs her of the bitches' dance, meaning she must pursue him, as in the werewolf world, the women choose their mates, not the other way around, as is standard in modern British society. That will not end well if he does not accept her advances, so she mentions being fine with her current life and her books. An agent of Burr arrives then to relieve Professor Lyle and lets them know that the vampires will take over watch after sundown. Lord Macon will not let whatever whispered news stop from keeping her safe.
Alexia's family, who were out shopping, returned home with lots of fashionable accessories, including luxurious gloves and aluminum jewelry. Alexia's half sisters, and her mother will be attending the many events. And after Alexia is rude to her mother purposefully, she is not permitted to attend. This is what she wanted to happen, and she makes plans to meet with Lord Akeldama instead. Later that night, Alexia awakens when she hears a fight in the alley outside her window. She sees a vampire fighting with a waxen man with the VIXI on his forehead. He climbs the outside of her house directly up to her window, but before he can get inside, the vampire pulls him off. They tumble to the ground below. Alexia is sure the waxen man must be dead, as he isn't supernatural, but he gets up and fights off the vampire, holding him by vampires. Ugh. But he gets up and fights off the vampire, holding him by breaking his wrists. Ooh. Policemen arrive soon, and the waxen man, with an eerie smile at Alexa, runs off.
He's a creep.
Really creepy.
The next day, Alexia is woken by her mother, who is upset about Alexia having a guest waiting on her in the parlor. A guest who ate 3 whole chickens. Alexia dresses and goes down to meet Lord Macon and learns the reason he left so abruptly the day before. Someone broke into the Burr offices and stole her file. Someone knows she is soulless. Alexia questions him about the waxen man, and he says he must be some sort of medical experiment gone wrong, knowing this because he bit him the night of the first attack and that he is filled with blood, but he is not a vampire or a werewolf. Alexia moves past this and alerts Connell to the fact that she knows about the bitch's dance and asks if she should pursue him. There's talk of a relationship that will last a long, long time, ending with an embrace.
Possibly they don't.
In italics.
And all the italics. And that, of course, is when Alexia's mother enters the room. She screams and blusters and causes a scene, and everyone comes rushing into the room. She demands that Lord Macon marry her daughter, but Alexia insists she will not marry him by force, even though he actually wants to. She thinks he's doing it just to do the right thing. Her sisters basically say that she's ugly and old, so why would he want to marry her? Rude. Alexia leaves the room and has a good cry while Lord McCon puts her family members in their place for making Alexia feel so badly about herself. And I say thank you, Connell. Stand up for you, missus.
Awful family. Later at Lord Akeldama's home, he and Alexia discuss what has happened since they last saw each other, including but not limited to the evening with Countess Nodiste and the multiple events with Lord Macon, ending with the fact that he wants to marry her, but probably out of pity. They stop their discussion after several of his drones, led by the very best one, Biffy, let him know they're going out for the full moon evening. Can you tell I love Biffy?
We all love
Shortly
Biffy.
You hide it so well.
thereafter, I had it so well, my love of Biffy. Shortly thereafter, the waxen man arrives, dumping something that smells like turpentine all around. Alexia prepares her parasol, and Lord Akeldama brandishes a double-edged weapon, wood and silver tipped. Alexia touches the waxen man by the VIXI on his forehead, but no soul-sucking happens. She succumbs to the fumes and passes out and is carried off by the waxen man. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Connell is being led into his safe room to change for the full moon, and as he does, he scents something familiar. Alexia?
Hmm. Alexia and Lord Akeldama wake in a sort of dungeon. Well, Lord Akeldama has been awake the whole time, but he was pretending to sleep to see if he could learn anything useful. But he could not, only that whoever took them to some sort of club that seems to be obsessed with octopuses. And they want him in particular. Alexia knows they want her too, but that they are unaware that they have her, as her files from Burr don't contain her picture. The waxen man knows, though, and he will surely alert his masters. Lord Akeldama assures her he will do no such things, as it is a homHUNKulus, a person-like creature, an automaton, and is unable to speak. It seems that this club is creating people to turn into vampires and werewolves, but their experiments aren't working. They're delighted to have finally acquired Lord Akeldama, though, and then they take him away.
Oh. Alexia is alone for some time, but then she hears voices approaching and recognizes one of them, the American scientist. He and the driver from the cab the night of the first attack are members of this club that is obsessed with octopus. They are also obsessed with learning about the change from human to werewolf and vampire and are kidnapping lone wolves and wolves to experiment on them. Delightful. Mr. McDougall, the American scientist, is upset that they are holding a woman captive. He has very Victorian sensibilities over this. And then he calls her by name, making the other man realize they have accidentally captured their prize. Idiot. They
Oh,
can study Alexia to see what it takes for her to stop the change. They plan to begin this experimentation by throwing her in a cell with a werewolf. She tells them that the change she imparts on supernaturals takes an hour, even though in fact it's instantaneous. They open the cell and put her inside. Dum, dum, dum.
the werewolf attacks. Alexia dodges. The werewolf attacks again, and she wraps herself around the wolf's body until he shifts back into a man who just so happens to be Lord Connell McCon. He explains that he and his entire pack were chloroformed and brought here, wherever here is. Alexia explains that they are at the Hippocrates Club and what all they are doing and why she is in a cell with him and that they need to rescue Lord Akeldama. Their conversation turns from the scientific to the romantic and flirtatious, and leads to curious naked touching. They eventually calm themselves and plan to do many more things when they are properly wed, but Alexia questions that again. Oh, come now. Unfortunately, the cell opens.
Mr. Siemens and several other scientists enter the cell, pleased to see their captured wolf back in human form, until, that is, he attacks. Unfortunately, Siemens calls for the automaton, and he comes into the room and carries Alexia away. She leaves a trail of her own blood for Connell to follow. She is taken to the exsanguination chamber, where she sees her dear Lord Akeldama pinned to a table with wooden stakes, his blood being transferred to another person, both being electrically shocked. They plan to start on her next, but Mr. McDougal puts up a small amount of fight on her behalf. Luckily, Connell shows up then and begins to eat everyone. Alexia eventually stops him and turns him back into his human form, but then the automaton attacks again. Lord Akeldama, still somewhat alive, thank goodness, tells Alexia to wipe the VIXI off his forehead. She manages to wipe some of it away and it stops attacking. But then it attacks again, just more slowly this time.
Dang nabbit. Though the automaton has slowed down, it's still strong, and Alexia struggles to fight it off, not wanting to let go of Connell, but wondering if she might need to. Lucky, Lord Akeldama approaches with a handkerchief and wipes the entirety of the word off the automaton's forehead, and it collapses into a puddle and pile of metal at her feet. Apparently, VIXI means to be alive in Latin, and VIX means with difficulty, so it was still following its orders, just not very well. Erasing the entire word took care of that, though. Soon Lord Akeldama's drones, again led by the very best dashing one, Biffy, arrive with Mr. Siemens tied up. They help Connell gather up the necessary burr reagents to tidy up all the events and get Lord Akeldama the blood he so desperately needs to get back to his usual self. They send one drone off to gather the potentate, the lead vampire in relation to the Queen, and will get word to the Juan, the lead werewolf, after sunrise. Alexia falls asleep and misses most of the boring conversations that follow.
She wakes up, carried by Professor Lyle, at her house to her mother's shrieks. She
Typical.
almost slaps, she almost slaps Alexia for being out all night unmarried with Lord Macon, even if he is an earl. Professor Lyle stops her and sets Alexia down, Flute immediately there helping to keep her upright. Then someone knocks at the door. Mrs. Loontwill screams, "They're not at home," to anyone. But oh, yes, they are. Queen Victoria has arrived to see Alexia. She tells Alexia she has been following her since she was born, and as there are so few preternaturals living in Britain, the Queen insists that Alexia marry Lord Macon, which she was going to do anyway because he does not need to be distracted and because she needs Alexia to be in high social standing. She invites Alexia to join the Shadow Council with the Potentate and the Dewan as a special third agent, one that has been vacant for a long time, the Muja, who will help settle disagreements between the Potentate and the Dewan. The Muja will be able to travel easily and will be able to investigate things that vampires and werewolves cannot. She accepts.
When the queen leaves, Alexia's mother wakes and begins questioning everything. But Alexia stops her shouting by declaring that she is going to marry Lord Macon. Alexia's sisters enter then and begin to plan everything. Alexia's name and Lord Akeldama's were left out of the news of the downfall of the Hippocrates Club, but many scientists were discovered to be involved and now find themselves to be without funding. Mr. McDougal, the American scientist, made his way back to America, and he took with him Alexia's parasol, which she greatly misses. Her darling husband-to-be declares he will make her one to match every dress. Oh!
Oh.
Soon it is time for the wedding, and nearly everyone is in attendance, including the Queen, though many vampires are not. Lord Akeldama is there, and all of his drones, and many werewolves of the varying packs. Countess Nadesty is not there, but has sent a gift for Alexia, her maid, Angelique. Obviously, Angelique is meant to be a spy, but oh well. Flute will move with Alexia to her new home in Wolsey Castle, which upsets her mother probably more than marrying off her daughter does. Ivy finds a new beau from the Wolsey pack, a red-headed claviger named Tunstall. All in all, the wedding is perfect. It was organised by Akeldama's Drones, so
Biffy.
of course. It concludes with all the werewolves turning and circling the new couple, bowing and showing their necks to Alexia in submission to their new alpha female. After all this, Lord and Lady Macon enjoy a very bumpy and very sexy and very italicized, very naked ride to their castle.
No.
So many italics.
So many ideas. Oh, okay. Everyone go and think about all those things in italics and listen
Sexy
to
time.
this promo for another show.
Sexy times.
Ooh,
Sexy times.
indeed.
Hi, I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
And I'm Lauren.
We are the hosts of Badass Literature Society, a book review podcast where we take book recommendations from listeners like you, read them, and then discuss them on our show.
Join us once a month as we dive into the books you picked and talk about them.
And don't miss our bonus episodes covering all sorts of random bookish topics that come out in between reviews.
Don't worry, if you want to read one of the books, the first part of each episode is designated spoiler-free, so you can listen and see if you'd like to read it, and then come back and listen to the rest later.
You can find Badass Literature Society on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and anywhere else you like to listen.
Now, back to the show.
Oh, I feel like I'm thinking in italics now. It's great.
Yes, yes, of course. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm going to start off by saying it's about bloody time that we covered this, and I'm
I
enjoying
know.
this immensely.
Yes,
It's come at
definitely.
a time I think it needed to be organic. It's come at the right time. We all needed
Yes,
this.
yes.
It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Annie, our guest, our super fan, our Miss Gail superstar. We'll let you go first.
What are we doing? Standout moments?
Yes.
Yes.
Standout moments. My standout moment is Biffy. I mean, when Biffy shows up, I love Biffy. And when all the drones arrive to save the day, that's just it. I just love that scene so much. And the and then when they're afterwards, when they're very capably taking care of things, and Lord Akeldama is just sitting there like so proudly, look at my boys. They're getting everything done and taking care of everything. And I just that's my standout moment. That's the my favorite part, I think.
There's something about a minor character at that point, like Biffy, but knowing their story
Yes.
and being excited about knowing how their story, what their story arc is exciting. This is why I love rereading books because it doesn't bother me that I know the ending. It's seeing that journey on the way again, and I'm so excited to see Biffy be this tiny person, so impeccably dressed, and what happens to them. And it's really difficult as well because I know I'm trying not to spoil it, and it's killing me. This is why when we do book club series, and I've only ever read to a point, I don't read past it or I don't reread again because it's so difficult not to be like, but this happens. And then Amanda has to get like major editing points or go bleep. And after last week, we do not need
That
to do
did
the bleeps
that
again.
did not go well.
No.
It did not go well.
When you're rereading, you notice things that you're like that, the first time you read, you're like, oh, that's, I like that person. He's fun. Or no spoilers, but somebody was in this one that the first time I read it, it didn't really faze me. But this, the second time and the third time and the fourth time, that you're like, oh, we know what's going to happen there. We know who that is. And it just, and every time I read them, I find something different.
Yeah.
That's why Miss Gail's a smart author, isn't she?
Yes.
All
Yes.
Yes.
three of the main series she's done
She leaves little
perfectly.
cookies for everyone,
No, 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 no.
right? And you don't even realize it when you're reading it the first time. And like this one for me, since I did not read this set first and I read, you know, finishing school first, and then I come to this and I'm like, it's the Lord Uncle. But
I don't think there's a right or wrong order, to read these. Whether
yeah.
you read them chronologically, whether you've read them publishing order, whether you say, oh, I'm going to read, whatever series floats your boat first.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a wrong way to read them because you will get something out of each series
Hmm.
because just it's so cleverly done.
Yeah. Miss Gail is brilliant.
She is.
She is. She is. That ending scene with the carriage ride. So I read it the first time, and I absolutely loved it. And then we were picking books for my Books and Brews club, and I'm like, oh, let's read Soulless. And so then it was a new book club, and I didn't really know people, and so then I'm rereading, and I'm like getting to the carriage scene, and I'm like, oh, okay. I hope they're all right with that. But it was everybody was fine with it. I mean, we had like I think about 14 people that time showed up and to read and had all read Soulless, and there were probably at least three or four that continued to. Everybody enjoyed it, but there were three or four that just immediately started binging the series, and that always makes me feel like I've done good work.
You've done the work of Miss Gail. That's perfect.
Yes.
But they're not
Yeah.
too spicy though, so there is a
No, they're
romance
not.
to them, but it's not the dominant factor at
No.
all. It's a side. It's there, but it's very much this is Alexia. This is a strong, independent woman in a Victorian society, and it's surrounded by science and werewolves and vampires and how she negotiates and works with it. It just so happens to be that she's having a lot of italics moments with the alpha werewolf and the big vampire in the city speaks in italics constantly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love him. I love him so much. He's Lord Akeldama, I think, across all series is my favorite character. Always,
I,
always and forever.
and I
He's so
always
consistent.
I look for him to show up. I'm waiting for him to show up because he's there. He's going to show up in some way,
If
shape, or
he's
form.
not there, his influence is there.
Exactly. He's mentioned.
Yes.
And I did feel really bad for his very stunning plum waistcoat, his whole outfit, and then they had to get blood, tore it and got blood on it, and just you're
It
like,
was a murder.
it was,
Ugh, it's horrible. It was
yeah,
ghastly.
it was ghastly. Yes, ghastly.
Something else that was ghastly while we're talking about the very best vampire of all times ever. Oh, and it was painful. It was painful, again, coming at this series not in publication order. The pronunciation of his name in the
Oh,
audiobook.
Oh,
Oh,
I can't even remember. It was so bad that I don't. And I bear in mind I fub up pronunciations all the time. I can't even. I don't even know I can say it how it was being done in the audiobook.
oh,
a Kildama.
I killed him. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
That sounds like somewhere in the Lake District where you send your kids for a week to stay over to do sports things.
I absolutely love Miss Gail's audiobooks. They are always they're my favorite, some of my favorites and whatnot. This one and that name and the fact that he's in there so much and it's said wrong so many times. I tend to read in print. Oh, you can tell I've got a background on there. Yes, I read in. I tend to read in print because I don't this one because that name. Oh, The
I was
only other
I was listening to it at work, and I literally flinched the
Yeah.
first time it came
Oof.
back. I was like,
Oof.
oh,
Oof.
and the other time that I have a problem with one of the audiobooks is in the Custard Protocol. Biffy is his full name is Rabifanana.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Rabifano. And they
Rabif-
call him Robifano. Oh, it's so
yes.
weird.
Oh,
and
why? Why
they,
did you bring that back? Why did you? Oh no! I
and
suppressed that.
they do this awful, whoever did, they do this awful Italian accent, and I have, and fortunately it's just a few little bits, so I always turn the audiobook off there and go get a print copy, because I am like, no, Biffy is an English dandy. We all know he is an English dandy. I don't care where his name comes from. He is an English dandy. He does not speak with an Italian accent.
Oh,
I had honestly
I
repressed that.
know
How dare
this.
you bring that back?
I'm
oh.
so sorry.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, that. But other than that, the narrator, she's delightful, and she does the rest of the series. And apparently, one of the drones, let her know she was saying it wrong, because it's right in the next book. It doesn't
That's
continue.
good.
I
See,
feel like we had this conversation with Miss Gail actually during one of our interviews with her that we talked
yes.
about the mispronunciation and
Yes.
that she wasn't consulted on it, which is unfortunate. It was Emily Gray as the narrator that otherwise did a bang up job.
Definitely.
And
I do
apparently,
prefer Moira Quirk though
Oh,
in
Moira
finishing
Quirk
school.
is
She's
amazing.
amazing.
She is amazing.
but apparently, and Miss Gail has talked about that, and apparently that is a thing that audiobook narrators don't always consult the author, or they do their job, they just read,
Yeah.
and so that is why I prefer series that keep the same narrator all the way through, because then there's consistency. So this one, like I say, I tend to prefer to read it in print, which is not a problem because I have like 8 copies, I think, 6 or 8. I have, you know, various one. I can find one to somewhere around the house to read. There's probably one in my purse at this moment.
I will say though that Emma Newman, who does some of the novellas, she's really good as well. And she's
Yes.
a really good author, and I've met her at a convention once, and she was really lovely. And I actually got to say how good I liked her audiobook narrations because she does narrate her own stuff as well. So she is a really good audiobook narrator too. She's very good.
Mm.
She's very English, and she sat there with her teacup and saucer and her hip flask. And that could have
I
been
love
somebody
her
else
already.
actually. There was a lot of teacups and saucers and peoples with hip flasks at this convention. Um,
My crowd. That is my crowd right there.
it was very fun. A lot of steampunk, massive steampunk thing going on. And she was lovely. So I've just had a quick look to see who else was doing it. But yeah, the other than that, what was it? Akil? Akilda?
Akildama.
Akildama,
Akildama.
Lord
Akildama.
There's
Akildama.
only one E. It would never, ever be pronounced that way. If you've ever read any words ever in any language, it would never be pronounced that way. It's painful.
It was just like, and so I only listened to a little bit this time. But I did listen to a little bit when I was out running errands, and I was like, no, no, stop. There is one part of this book that I would like to talk about that is a little more serious, but
Oh.
I want to mention it because it's very important to me. Um, I like the fact that she has written a mother who is evil. That
Ugh.
Alexia's mother does not turn over a new leaf, doesn't get better, whatnot. And for those of us who grew up in dysfunction and verbally abusive mothers, it is lovely to see somebody who gets over that. I mean, she's struggling with it in this book, but she does come to realize that she is worth something, and she's also out there plotting and doing things so her mother won't find out. So I absolutely love seeing somebody who's grown up in that sort of situation, and they don't just survive, they thrive. They just take on and they lead their life, and so that's another a little aspect of this book that just makes me love it so much, is that there is no, because I always hate that when there's just like an ending where suddenly the mother just turns all syrupy sweet, and you're like, because
No,
that
we
never
don't
happened.
need. We've said this multiple times, haven't we, Amanda? People do not need a redemption arc, and at
No.
least with Mrs. Loontwill as well, we know when she appears in the Crusted Protocol, she hasn't gotten any better.
Oh,
No.
she's still
That's not
horrible.
spoilers. It's not a spoiler to say that she makes an appearance at some point. She's
Yes.
still horrible. And there
Yes.
may be an
She's still
incident with
horrible.
her that is delightful, but we know she doesn't have
She's
any
still
redemption.
horrible because people do not change. I mean, So yeah, so I really like that. That always makes me happy, and it's a rarity to find in books where because we're taught to believe that mothers are wonderful and sweet and nurturing and all this stuff, and they're not sometimes, and that needs to be shown in literature. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes you're just a horrible, horrible being.
yeah, sometimes you're just a garbage person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't even blame Victorian sensibilities on the way Mrs. Lintwill acts.
No.
She's just a horrible person.
Yeah.
She's just a horrible, yeah. She's just a horrible person.
Yeah.
I also I love when they sit down to dinner and she finds out that what's his name that's sitting beside, he's an American. Our word's an
Ew.
American.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
we
and
don't want to
he's
sit next to an
like,
American at a dinner party.
oh,
Uncivilized.
Civilized.
and he's like pudgy and his hair is receding and it's just every like despicable thing that you could think of to describe an American, and he had it.
And so another random thing that I love is when they go to get Professor Lyle some liver, and they chop it in little pieces and they put it in a sherbet cup and they serve it with an ice cream spoon. Standards. We must have standards.
I love Professor Lyle.
Me too.
And how he's just in the background and okay, yeah.
He's a true beta. He is a true beta. He's there to help, he's there to support, he's there to, he is, yeah, I really do enjoy Professor Lyle as a character, and I'm glad that he has been killed. 'Cause I don't think any of the werewolves got killed by the octopus happy Hippocrates Club. I mean, you know what? I like an octopus. I'm quite for an octopus, but their decor, their aesthetic, it was just a bit much. It's like maybe you need to dial it down a little bit.
I love too that it says in the book like there was no explanation for the octopuses. We don't know why they love the octopus so much, and I just love that.
Yes. I never want to be explained. This is a mystery that needs to live on in life. I really enjoyed the fact that Alexia is so freaking practical because she's soulless. Like, she is the height of fashion, but it's because she just goes to the Modiste and says, dress me in whatever needs to be, and it happens. And the fact that when she's we first meet her, she's at a ball, but because the food is shocking, she goes to the library to get some peace and quiet and tells the butler to go and bring her some refreshments. I'm like, yes, yes, you just want a quiet book and some refreshments. You do when your social battery's empty, that's what you want. How dare that baby vampire interrupt that?
And when she was upset and she went to her room after her mother found out, and Flute came in and he brought her a restoring tea tray because if you're upset, what more? You need a tea tray.
Yes.
You need a tea tray. When I get
Tea
done here, I'm gonna have
solves
a tea tray.
all problems. I know it seems like a stereotype where it's like where the British will always say, "Oh, the house has fallen down. Have a cup of tea." "Oh, family members have just been tragically murdered. Cup of tea."
Have a cup of
It's
tea.
you know
Have a cup of tea.
you've just stubbed your toe. Cup of tea. Seriously, it is a stereotype for a reason because it's like, oh, do you know what I really need right now? Cup of
Cup of
tea.
tea. Cup of tea.
Cup of tea. Do you fancy a brew? It's been one of those days. I need a cup.
I've
So
gotten to
amazing.
where when I'm out running errands and I know I'm going to be gone all day, used to I'd be like, oh, I'll get a coffee or something while I'm out. Now I make a thermos of PG tips and take it with me because because I'm out running errands and I run out of I run out of energy and I'm like, oh, I could really use a cup of tea. And there's nothing but coffee around. So yeah, so
So
Oh, I'm all for a cup of tea. Tea on a night time is the taste the best. Like I might have to make another cup of tea after this and just
same Z.
settle and just have a settle. I've
The fire.
found a place in the city next to me that does loose leaf teas, and they'll just pour them out onto a tray, and they'll let you smell them, and you can buy them by the tea bag, or you can buy them in the packet. And they also sell, which I'm very tempted to get some and send to you, Annie, empty tea bags so you can create your own tea.
I have some of those. Are
Oh,
they
I'll
like
not bother getting them.
the little packages?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, because I do use those because I have the tea kettle that you can put the loose tea in, but then you got to like scoop it all out. So I like to use them so you can just take them out. I know it's a tea bag, and I know that's not some people don't like those, but yeah,
I'm not that snobby. My snobby lines when it comes to tea is you don't
the
microwave
microwave.
it,
yeah, the
but
microwave.
also I'm adding to this, stop putting it in the air fryer.
Oh,
Keep
What?
seeing that on the internet. Yeah, I know,
What?
Amanda. I know. So the latest thing is that they keep putting tea into air fryers. And they're like, oh, if I put it in the air fryer for 4 minutes, you get a perfect cup of tea. It's like, do you know a kettle takes 2 minutes if that? You just boil what and
and when people say they don't have a tea kettle, I'm like, I like really? Well, I don't really. I'm like, do you know how many good things you can do with the water boiling quickly?
you
Yeah,
save money if you boil the water in the kettle to then transfer it to the pan to do the cooking or whatever you need to
yes,
do.
absolutely. Yes.
It's cheaper.
Chip.
Electricity is cheaper than gas. Do you know how much it costs to pipe gas? The only place you have to be literally at the gas source, like in the UK, you have to be at Stornoway in Scotland for it to be a reasonable price. I know this because I used to work for the freaking industry. Sorry, ranting. Calm down, Claire. I need a tea.
Yeah, we'll have a tea.
You do. I think you need to get a cup of tea. So angry right now.
Do you know what I really wanted to do for this episode, but I kind of ran out of time, and I'm really good. I was going to buy a hat, and I was going to just affix one random thing to it, and then every time we did, it would build up to an ivy
Well,
hat.
I mean, you have a hat on currently, and it has a very wide green ribbon on it. So that, I mean, you could add something to it for next time because we're going to cover all of these books. You've got time. You can
That is
add
true.
things.
Sure.
That is
Look, and
true.
I have my steampunk goggles on that
I
I
was going to put my
did.
steampunk goggles on, but I didn't. I forgot.
I made these as at a program that I did with teens at the library, and they're actual swimming goggles that we like glued and affixed things to.
They look very good.
Thank
They
you.
do.
And they're tied with a ribbon. And so, if you add something new to your hat every time, I'll add something new to my hat every time.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's perfect.
Gonna have to think what. I've got some steampunk goggles. I could put those on next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little mini teacup.
Yes.
Oh, balance a teacup.
Yes.
And then in the end, I have a teapot.
Yes. And then you'll
Teabags dangling down,
yes, and you'll
Crocodile
take it.
Dundee style.
Yes, all of this needs to happen. Um,
Right, I think we've reached that point.
well, we didn't talk about surprises.
Oh.
Oh, I had a surprise.
What's your
Actually, I had
surprise?
two.
You can
Um,
have my surprise because I'll be honest, read it that many times, don't think I've got any.
um, that Lord Eccledama actually eats, because when she went to the Vampire Queen's house, there was an excellent tea and Battenberg cake, but they did not partake. And she says, well, and she also had Lord Eccledama come for dinner. And she says, well, perhaps, they don't bother or whatnot. So, that for some reason that stood out to me this time. I'm like, oh, he does actually eat. And I do love that she says the only thing he ever drinks is champagne, well, and blood, and
Yes.
the best thing is a pink slurp.
Yes.
Blood and champagne. So that was one surprise. And then the second thing that I caught this time was just how many times his drones were in the background. Because like the first time you read it, you're like, oh, some people came into the library, you don't really think about it. But they were literally everywhere. They just, they were, and he talks about his spy system and all these things, but they really are there. They're just everywhere. They're in the library. They're outside the what was the name of the club? Sangria, the most notorious vampire club in London. They're just everywhere, and then they show up at the end and help save the day. And I just, and I don't think I got that like the first time I read, but yeah, that they're literally Biffy is in the background everywhere.
I genuinely don't know if Lord Eccledama knows how many drones he has at this point. I would love to be in a situation where all of a sudden some very handsomely dressed, stunning men suddenly appear to rescue me, and there's no threat from them. They're just there to just clean you up, sort you out, get the help that's needed, and look fabulous, darling.
It'd be amazing. I think that I am going to surprise both of you by saying that this is only the second time I've read this book. I know. So that's my surprise for you. And also that I had completely forgotten that there was a homunculus in this book. And I
always forget that too.
I love the word homunculus. So it made me really happy. I completely had forgotten about him. The waxen
I thought it was
man.
called a golem at one point.
They
Or I might be confusing with something else.
yeah, that is a thing. That's another thing, especially with the writing on the forehead.
Yeah.
That's how you typically control your golems. But yeah.
Well, they never refer to it as a golem at all in this one. I can't
No.
remember. No.
Yeah, no.
Oh, thank you.
No,
Oh, that's
he's
clever.
a
Forgive me.
homunculus. He is an automaton.
Yes. I think I must be thinking of another book that's steampunky that has a golem in it, not a not referred to as a homunculus, it's a golem.
Yes.
Don't ask me what it was. But yeah.
I tend to forget that too. For some reason, it just does. I remember the kidnapping. I remember the club and whatnot. But for some reason, the homunculus always. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah,
I
homunculus.
remember being in the dungeon with Lord McGunn and he's naked. Nope, no, that was Alexia.
Ooh. Naked.
But he's Scottish.
touchings.
But he is an earl.
It's an
But
Mm.
he's Scottish. But he is a peer of the realm. He's not American, so it's fine. Or an
We did it.
Italian. An Italian! Oh, their noses.
Yeah.
Their complexion.
He does love a bit of Scottish once in a while. So
The stuff Victorians used to do to actually make themselves pale, like, ridiculous. The more you learn about the Victorians, the more you're like, thank God I was not in that period of time, because they were absolute batshit loco.
yeah.
Crazies. Crazies. Anywho.
Should we move on? Should we move on to
Yeah.
favorite final thought quote now that we have discussed our surprise homunculus?
Homunculus.
Surprise, homHUNKulus. Annie,
Oh,
would you like to go first?
Well, one of mine is is the first part of one of yours, and it's the one that in my initial thoughts, that every time I read it, it's like right there at the very first, and every time I read it, it just puts me in such a good mood. To put the pudding in the puff. To put the pudding in the puff. It just lets me know that this book is gonna be so fun, and I'll let you finish one of you finish the rest of that one when it comes to it. And then I like my one serious one. I understand that you have been taught for far too long that you are unworthy, and I love that's such a great scene with Connell. And then Lord Akeldama, no one tells me what I can and cannot wear. That he had some falling out with somebody. I forget what it was they wanted to wear, and he was like, no. And did you just ask if I kenned? You did. I was just kenned. She so did like it when the Earl's Highland lilt came out. It was currently her second favorite thing he did with his tongue.
You can sense the italics.
And one last one from Biffy. I I love this scene, and it's just hey, Tizzy, come over here. Got a bit of sport for you. Nip around to old Bucky and rustle up the potentate. And and everybody's like, does Lord Tisdale know that his son is a drone and wears top to head to toe lemon yellow? And yeah. Around to old Bucky and rustle up the potentate.
I like that it's very serious too. Like you need to go and get the potentate and bring him here. And he's like, oh, nip round to old Bucky.
Oh, Bucky.
I'm loving the way you guys are saying it in your American accent. It's great.
We can't help it that we're American, Claire.
I'm not ridiculing you. I'm enjoying this.
Oh.
So those, I mean, and honestly, I've marked so many. There are so many quotes. I mean, it's like the entire book. My Kindle edition is just highlighted and highlighted and highlighted. It's there. All of Miss Gail's books are like that. Though there's just so many good quotes.
100%. 100p.
Claire, you want to do yours?
I will. I did wake up this morning thinking of all the rude things I could have said, but did not. I call that most aggravating. Real life or book? Real life or book? Please, Lord Bacon, use one of the cups. My delicate sensibilities. The Earl actually snorted.
He was drinking directly from the teapot spout.
We've all done that. Alexia did not speak Glairish. The Queen's English, if you please. You do realise modern social mores exist for a reason. I was hungry. Allowances should be made. 100% agree.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I'm hungry, yes.
Give me cheese. Bring me a cup of tea. Amanda, over to you.
Thank you. She had retreated to the library, her favorite sanctuary in any house, only to happen upon an unexpected vampire. Is that
That's
your
That's
pudding?
the dream.
That's
That's
your
the
pudding in the
dream.
puff.
Pudding in the puff. Put the pudding in the puff. I need to find a way to incorporate that into my daily language.
Yes.
Put the pudding in the puff.
Please do. How ghastly for her. People actually thinking with their brains and right next door. Oh, the travesty of it all. Thinking with their brains.
It's upsetting.
It's so upsetting.
It gets to one's sensibilities.
Mm. And finally, mine is not precisely a bad life. I have material wealth and good health. Perhaps I'm not useful nor beloved by my family, but I have never suffered unduly. And I have my books. Mm. Mm.
I can totally agree with that one.
Yes, yes.
There was one I pulled and I just read it and I instantly thought of Amanda.
Which one?
Cats were not, in her experience, an animal with much soul. Prosaic, practical little creatures as a general rule. It would suit her very well to be thought cat-like. And I instantly thought, yeah, Amanda wants to be thought cat-like.
Yes.
However, you are practical as a general rule, but you are also
Yes.
very highly creative. So I'm sorry to tell you this, you are not soulless.
Yeah, I have a soul. It's just black and dead.
Well, that's fine, but you have one. Evidently, it is sitting on your head.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just dead. I'm just dead inside. It's fine.
It's fine. Well, if you're dead inside, we can raise you up as a vampire.
Thank you.
No.
Please. Please do.
Sorted.
All right, great. Is it time? Is it time? Is
It's
it time?
time.
Pew, 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 pew.
We asked on social media, what the hell is going on with social media? We don't know.
Fuck.
We are confused. Anywho, we asked at least on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can do polls on YouTube now. Go figure.
Yeah, we learned that. Woohoo!
Knowledge. Would you rather be trapped in a library with a hungry baby vampire or locked in a dungeon with a werewolf on full moon? No one is surprised by the results. Facebook, 88% vampire. Instagram, 91% vampire. YouTube, 60% vampire. All vampires, all the
All
time.
the time.
All the time.
We have comments. Katrina on Facebook said, okay, are these sexy supernaturals or angry ones? Because that makes a difference. I'm going to say library with a vampire. If he's sexy, it should be a comfortable, calm environment for him to seduce me rather than a possibly dank dungeon. And if he's angry, I have books as weapons.
Of course. Claire on Facebook says, as long as it's Lord Macon, then I take him. Yes, yes, yes.
Emily on Facebook said, I take a library because I can throw discarded books at it.
Discarded books.
I think TBR piles.
Or books that you no longer need in your collection.
Yeah, no longer on the forever shelf.
Yes. Drew on Facebook says, all vampires all the time.
It is our unofficial motto of Vampire Book Club.
It is.
Or maybe our official model. I don't know.
I think it's both.
I think
I
it
think
is
it's
too.
both. Colin on Facebook said, I'm tempted to go with the vampire and the library. Why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Both options involve being stuck somewhere with someone less than savoury, but one of them is a nice, warm, cosy library, and the other involves being stuck in a cold, dark, dank dungeon. Now, I like hanging out in a good dungeon as much as the next guy, especially if I've got good company. But I think we can all agree a library is going to win here. Plus, I can just kick the vampire repeatedly in the spuds until he gets the idea that he's not allowed to do the whole biting thing.
Oh.
Spuds. And the spuds.
We go on a story every week.
Coral on Facebook, much like Drew, says, silly question. All vampires all the time.
Seeing a theme. Candace on Facebook says, I feel like I'd have a better chance of surviving the baby vampire. It's tiny. I think I can take it. I like the fact that Candace has interpreted it as being ickle.
Well, I mean, it is in the question as a baby vampire, not
That's true. That is true.
not
And
a
also,
newly turned vampire, a baby vampire.
but remember, you are the Lord and Master of all your survey when it
It's
comes to
true.
would you rather answers. So
That's true.
I think she's gone the right route, you know.
Joe Roland Author on Instagram says, the library with a baby vampire. Books are magical, and there's a good possibility I could read him to sleep. See, there's another one. It's a real baby.
And Brie Tart on Instagram said, trapped in the library with a baby vampire, I could reason with a hungry bloodsucker, even a baby one who doesn't have their manners yet. We can work out a deal. A moon crazy pupper? Not so much.
Finally, Scully Joe on Instagram, if you know, you know, says,
Wink,
last
wink,
thing
nudge, nudge.
I need to do is give the werewolf one of my bones to chew on. If you know, you know.
You know, you know.
Hmm. Okay. I think it's probably safe to say they were all choosing the vampire in the library
Yeah.
because either all vampires all the time and or all libraries all the time.
There's a
Yeah.
library.
Yeah.
And the
There's a
fact
library.
is, because we are the Lords and Masters of all we survey when it comes to the answers, we're all soulless, so we can all take the supernatural away
Yes.
from our attacker,
Yes.
so they're much more
And,
malleable.
and also, I feel like that there would be more wood in the library so that you could, the stake, there would be something you could stake them with. A pencil, a
Yeah.
wooden pencil, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably not a lot to use in the dungeon to fight a werewolf.
Exactly.
I would agree with both those statements, but I will raise you the fact that you're in a ball. One of Lord Akeldama's drones is going to be nearby to help you.
Right. They're
This
always
is true.
there. They're
They're
always
always
there.
there.
What?
What's she called? What's she called? Plant pot. From the finishing school. We always say she's hiding behind the plant pot.
Oh, Agatha.
Agatha.
Aha!
Agatha's there. Agatha's in the
Agatha
corner.
could be there. She's behind the plant pot.
She
In the
probably is
library,
there.
ready to help you out.
Yes.
Yes.
She's probably there. Yes.
She probably really is there.
If finishing school was written before the Parasol Protectorate, I'm telling you, she would have been there.
She would have been
She-
there. But
in this universe, she is
yes.
canon.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Would you rather have an ugly parasol or wear an ugly hat?
For the audio listeners, Annie is gesturing to her hat. It's pink, it's fluffy, it's quite big.
She's also sniffed some of it.
She sniffed some of it. I think the word is
While you
in
see me
italics.
going like this,
Stunning.
it's like this. The pink fuzz is like coming at me. Yeah,
It's stunningly poofy.
it's
is.
very
In
poofy.
italics.
Yes.
It's very poofy. It's very poofy. Yeah. I do have a parasol over there, and it does not match my outfit. So, but I do have one.
Does it have
So-
weapons in many pockets?
See, now
Um,
wait, Claire. That doesn't exist yet.
Oh.
That is not mentioned in this book. It does mention the tip of it being used as a weapon, but we do not yet know that it is full of weaponry.
Because we need a certain French inventor to make that happen.
Zut alors.
Soon, everyone, soon.
Soon.
I would rather wear an ugly hat.
Same, please.
I don't have to carry it.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
And I don't care. I don't care if it's an ugly hat. Everyone should know how long it took me to acquire this top hat that actually fits my head. And I was
Measured
very,
in
very
years.
happy. Yes,
Measured
it
in years.
took so long to find a top hat that actually fits my head. So I like a hat. I wish that hats were a thing that everyone wore all the time.
I love wearing a hat. I sent you guys a picture of me at work saying I'm having a hat day, and I was just so happy I was wearing a hat. in public all day, and I was just like, oh. So yes, I've actually started to wear my hats more often, which is just like crocheted beanies and stuff. So I need to think about what I'm gonna have hat wise in the summer.
Top hat.
In my younger days, I was known for my hat collection, and my wonderful husband was quoted as saying, "She's cute, but what about those hats?"
Oh,
That just hit me. I forgot about that. We've been married a long time. There's lots of things have gone down. I'm like, I forgot about the hat comment. And he should be, I think he's home. I can hear them in the other room talking. So I'm going to go out there with my outfit and be like, well, I'm cute, but the hat.
adorable.
Oh, himself, how could he say such a thing?
Oh,
Himself, yes.
Next question. Oh, have we got too many?
we do have too many questions.
Oh, okay. Do you know, I'm not going to say that one because I think we've already said that one. In a way.
Sure.
Would you rather have a library filled with salacious material or a parasol with secret pockets and hidden weapons? So we are jumping ahead a little bit.
This one was really hard because I generally always go with the library, but I was very tempted by the parasol with the secret pockets and hidden weapons. So I'm going to say my parasol has a secret compartment for Miss Gail's little mass market books, so I can have the library in the parasol. Does that?
Oh, that's
That's how you
amazing.
answer a would you rather.
That answer was perfection.
Thank
Yes.
you. I didn't even think
Yes.
of that. Well, that just came to me.
Oh,
the
so
best
good.
way. Best way.
Yeah.
I mean, I want a copy, but
I feel like I already have a library filled with salacious material.
yeah. I mean, you don't know what's behind those books.
Yeah. And like, not only do I have my private library here, I also have a public library that I have purchased all the items for. So yeah, I think I'll take a parasol.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. I have books of a salacious nature, so I'm gonna get
Yes.
the parasol with
Yes.
secret pockets and hidden weapons, and the book, the one that'll fit a trade paperback in.
Yes. 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 Ah, okay.
And I just so happen to have two trade size paperbacks of Soulless because I have one because Miss Gail sent me a whole bunch of books after the house fire, and so I think one was in there, and then on one of her Facebook lives she talked about if you could find a box set of all five of mass market size, that those were hard to find, and I found one on eBay, and so it also has
Surprising no one.
yeah, surprising no one. Yeah, surprising no one. So yeah, I also have a oh, there goes another piece of pink fuzz. When Miss Gail was doing the clearance thing, I bid and won the autographed copy of Soulless on CD.
Oh,
For
wow.
zombie times when I'm
Yes.
driving the old car that doesn't have Bluetooth, I can just pop Soulless in there and
Yes. It's amazing.
I'm prepared.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I think one of my favorite, talking about that, one of my favorite memories is when Claire didn't realize that her copy that she had was signed. We were talking to Miss Gail at the time, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you have that copy? I signed all of those." And Claire opened it up and cried.
Oh,
That was amazing.
Nice. The page was stuck together as well. Like, I remember opening it and just, yeah. I think out of all the amounts of times we've talked to Miss Gail, I've only not cried once, potentially, but I would not put money on that.
Well,
I
I'm
think I'm more
sure she'll come
Parasol now.
back as we're discussing her
I
original.
and you know, she sent me after the house fire, she sent me everything she possibly could. And I have a video of me unboxing it, and I was just so touched because she sent me um things from her private collection and whatnot, and and some things she didn't have, and then I continued to like search and find them and whatnot. But that just touched my heart. I mean, that I just and the fact that she did that for me just gobsmacked is the word, I guess.
Yeah.
So because that is having your books around you. Oh, I'm sitting here holding the Subterranean Press copy of Soulless that I had found one once and I lost it in the fire, and then I found another one on eBay, and the fact that I managed to find a second one, I was like, holy crap. So
You need to find a third one for me, remember? I've told you, that's your task in life.
I have a alert on that. I'm working on it, Claire. I'm
So
working
do
on it.
I. There's the other one, the delightfully deadly novella one.
The
It's
blue
the
one?
fan service. That's the one I need as well. And I've got
Oh, okay.
alerts for that too. There was actually a copy of the Subterranean Soulless went on eBay, I saw, and I put a watch on it, and it was bid only. And I put a watch on, and it went to £600.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a bit out of my price range.
Um, so the one that I got, the Soulless Subterranean Press one, the second one I got, the first one I got for fairly reasonable. The second one is the most I've ever spent on a book. It was $200. And I used a credit card that I had points. So technically I got it for free.
Nice.
Yay!
Perfect.
That's
And,
how
at
you
the
do
time
it.
I was, at the time we were living with nephew Sam whilst we were looking for houses, and I'm like, I don't have a mortgage. It's fine. It's fine. I'll use some points. Yeah.
It's fine.
So yeah, a justification. Pink fuzz. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Wonderful.
We've digressed into other things, but
We have. We
Welcome to
did.
Fictional Hangover.
Yes. Hi, is this your first episode? Next question. Would you rather be best friends with a vampire or romantically involved with a werewolf?
Best friends with Biffy. I feel sure that Biffy could be my BFF. And we're gonna pass on the werewolf because the whole wet dog smell is just no,
Yeah.
not a fan.
Mm-mm.
Not a fan.
What's
Like
that
when the
quote from the live we did together about best friends? What was the book called?
We've done a million lives together, Claire.
Yep.
The one that we did together?
Vampires Never Say Die.
Yes.
It's amazing when you just put the word live in the Google Docs search. This is going to be my answer as soon as I find. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. This is my answer. I have my best friend forever, and that's a promise made in blood.
Oh. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, so moving. I'm also going to choose vampire best friend. But for me, not just because all vampires all the time. I don't want to be romantically involved with someone so hairy. I imagine a werewolf is very hairy.
I'm already romantically involved with somebody who's very hairy and basically a werewolf, so might as well have, I'm already.
sorry, all that raw meat is gonna be there's gonna be some bad breath there. I mean,
Yeah.
just there's not enough.
Oh, you've got to be careful with your oral hygiene.
Yeah, it's like, ew. And I'm a vegetarian, so hey, yeah.
Hmm. But then you'd have to be surrounded by the occasional pink slurp.
A pink slurp, I could, yeah. It has champagne. I could do a pink slurp.
Okay. Okay.
I just see a pink slurp is not vegetarian.
We know that.
Yeah, but also it's probably human blood. Does that change things?
Yeah, to
I,
It's
cannibalism.
not an animal.
It is. Human's still an animal.
No, that doesn't count.
okay. Well, we could use cranberry juice instead.
Yeah,
No,
let's use cranberry
I
juice.
think we've just discovered that Annie is a vegetarian, but she's okay
She's
with eating
not
people.
opposed to cannibalism.
Um, I do tell people I'm not the world's best vegetarian. So, for instance, if I'm out and about and there's soup on the menu, and I order the soup, I don't ask if it's vegetable broth or chicken broth because the chicken is if it's made with chicken broth, the chicken has already died. The last thing you do with the carcass is make the broth. So, you're just recycling at that point in time. So and I pick the Canadian bacon off the pizza and just throw it over on the husband's plate. I mean, I'm not a militant vegetarian. I just yeah,
I,
for the
I'm
most part.
I'm hearing excuses and not reasons. But to be fair, I've known many people who've claimed vegetarianism and they've gone to like Burger King or McDonald's and ordered a
Yeah.
cheeseburger and then scraped the cheese off the burger patty and given the burger patty to their partner. And I'm like, that's still not being a vegetarian, but you know what? You do you. I'm not complaining and I'm not
Yeah.
shaming. You do
Yes.
you.
We
If,
don't
if it
kink
keeps you
shame.
happy, if you're happy, it's fine.
Yes. Yes.
Anywho,
Anywho, any
anywho,
woozle, any woozle.
do we have one more question?
We have
I'm
one
so
final
lost.
question.
Would you rather be a member of a secret scientific society with potentially an obsession with octopuses for some reason, or a member of the Queen's Shadow Council, or an agent of the Bureau of Unnatural Registry? Brrr.
Well, I am not scientific at all. So yeah, I would not be a good science in a society. Um, and the Shadow Council sounds like a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. So at least, if you were an agent of Burr, you'd get to like be out and about and doing things. So I'm
You could
gonna go
hang
with
with
that one.
Professor Lyle.
I can hang with Professor Lyle and Haberbank, Mr. Haberbank, who apparently is stunningly muscled and is the type of man who, if the horse goes lame, he just picks up the plow and finishes plowing the field himself.
I love that. And also that he's just a human. He's not supernatural at all. He's just
So
big
he's
and
just a big old
hunky.
boy. He's just a big old boy. He's
He's
a big
just a
old boy.
country boy who gets on with it.
It's
Yes.
like, yeah. So
I think I'm going to join the Shadow Council.
no.
Yeah, it feels more mysterious. And I feel like if I was a part of Burr, I don't know, it'd probably
I would
get
be so
messy.
nosy. I would just read all the files and find out all the
Yeah,
stuff about people.
yeah. I'm going to join the Shadow Council.
Um, I guess I should probably take the Secret Scientific Society. I am technically, I do work in STEM. I am a lady of STEM. I do work in
Yes,
the sciences.
yes. All right. Well, then we're all of them. We've got it covered.
Cool.
It's perfect. It's
We shall
perfect.
wear our hats, meet over tea, and discuss our
Our
lives.
various
Yes.
activities.
Yes. Yes, we should do that.
But I'm not performing unethical experiments. I draw the
No.
line.
Are you going to create a homunculus?
If you would like me to, I will create you a homunculus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I
You're
ask for in
welcome.
life.
You are
It's
welcome.
homunculus.
A huge homunculus. A
A
herculean
huge one.
homunculus. A huge herculean homunculus.
They never be.
HumHUNKulus.
A huge herculean hum hum
HumHUNKulus.
homHUNKulus. Oh.
That's
Oh.
weird. That's weird. Don't make the homunculus hunky. That's weird. I don't
You
like
said
that.
it.
I did say it.
Made it.
I take it back. Edit that out, me.
No, don't edit it out.
Edit that out.
Oh, okay. If you liked this, try this. What are we going to suggest? Annie, you go first.
I picked Steampunk Darcy by Monica Fairview. And this is the description of it. I think I got it it's off the back of the book. William Darcy is obsessed with his ancestors, so much so that he intends to rebuild Pemberley, destroyed during the uprising, stone by stone. He wants to employ reconstruction expert Seraphina Grant to help him. Or does he? Seraphina wasn't born yesterday. She can smell a rat, particularly when it stinks all the way up to her airship. She knows Darcy is hiding something. But with the authorities after her and her other options dwindling by the moment, the temptation of genuine English tea and a gorgeous steampunk gentleman are very difficult to resist. But what if Darcy's mystery job courts nothing but trouble? What if Darcy is harboring a secret to kill for? When kiss comes to shove, will Darcy's secret destroy Seraphina, or will it be her salvation? Join us on a romantic adventure like no other, the whimsical Pride and Prejudice inspired tribute featuring Wickham, Georgiana, dirigibles, funky fish, and swashbuckling pirates. I read this one about the same time I read Soulless. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and I bought a print copy, and I've since replaced the print copy. I've got another one. And this Darcy is the 13 times grandson of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. And Claire, it is on my stack to be part of Jane Austen Then and Now book club. I think it needs a reread. So,
Nice.
Steampunk Darcy by Monica Fairview.
Well, I look forward to your review in April. Right. I am going to suggest a book called Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest. And again, like similarly to last week, this is one I recommended years ago, and I'm bringing it back because it's relevant and I need to get people's eyes/ear holes. I've got the book somewhere. Don't know where it is. It's behind me. In the early days of the Civil War, rumors of gold in the frozen Klondike brought hordes of newcomers to the Pacific Northwest. Anxious to compete, Russian prospectors commissioned inventor Leviticus Blue to create a great machine that could mine through Alaska's ice. Thus was Mr. Blue's incredible bone-shaking drill engine born. But on its first test run, the bone shaker went terribly awry, destroying several blocks of downtown Seattle and unearthing a subterranean vein of blight gas that turned anyone who breathed it into a living dead. Now it is 16 years later and the wall has been built to enclose the devastated and toxic city. Just beyond it lives Blue's widow, Briar Wilkes. Life is hard, with each a ruined reputation and teenage boy to support, but she and Ezekiel are managing, until Ezekiel undertakes a secret crusade to rewrite history. His quest will take him under the wall and into the city teamed with ravenous and dead air pirates, criminal overlords, and heavily armed refugees. And only Briar can bring him out alive. Now, it sounds very dramatic, it sounds very dystopian, but it is a steampunk book. And, to compensate for Mr. McDougal and all the American bashing that's taken place in this episode, this is set in America as well. So this is my this is my compensation to you guys.
Okay. I'm going to suggest one that I have not read, but I have read other books by this author. I'm going to suggest The Girl in the Steel Corset, Steampunk Chronicles #1 by Katie Cross. And long time listeners of the show might recognize Katie Cross as an author from the Before Times, where we discussed Sisters of Blood and Spirit by this author. And it was a good book. I really liked it. It was actually a duology. It was very, very good. So this one, in 1897 England, 16-year-old Finley Jane has no one except the thing inside her. When a young lord tries to take advantage of Finley, she fights back and wins. But no normal Victorian girl has a darker side that makes her capable of knocking out a full-grown man with one punch. Only Griffin King sees the magical darkness inside her that says she's special, says she's one of them. The orphaned Duke takes her in from the gaslit streets against the wishes of his band of misfits. Emily, who has her own special abilities and an unrequited love for Sam, who is part robot, and Jasper, an American cowboy with a shadowy secret and battle scars. Not really, sorry. We just had to have a Twilight mention in this episode, and that was the perfect time to do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I need to sit like this for a while.
Yes.
Griffin's investigating a criminal called the Machinist, the mastermind behind several recent crimes by automatons. homHUNKuluses. Finley thinks she can help and finally be a part of something, finally fit in. But the Machinist wants to tear Griff's little company of strays apart, and it isn't long before trust is tested on all sides. At least Finley knows whose side she's on, even if it seems no one believes her.
Nice. Sounds good. Is it possible? Can it be? Is it true? There's a new and indie spotlight that's relevant?
There is a new and indie spotlight, but it's not really new, but it kind of is new.
Okay.
And it is by an author that I really, really love, and we've only covered one of her books on the show before. I am going to talk about The Emily Adventures by Martha Wells, who wrote the Murderbot Diaries, and we love Murderbot.
That was fun.
The Emily Adventures is actually 2 old books that are being combined into one new edition, and it is coming out in May of this year.
Exciting.
So it combines Emily and the Hollow World, and its summary is running away from home and stowing away on the wrong ship. Emily embarks on a fantastic adventure. Emily learns that the crew hopes to use an experimental engine to journey into the interior of the planet. But when the ship becomes damaged on arrival and evidence points to sabotage, they encounter the treacherous Lord Ivers, along with a strange new race. Can Emily and her newfound friends possibly reach the surface world again? And then the second book is called Emily and the Sky World, and its summary is when Emily arrives in Silk Harbor, Professor Abendon, an old colleague of her friend Lady Marlend, warns them of something strange and potentially deadly in the sky, a disruption in an upper air ether current. On further investigation, they realize it's a ship from another etheric plane. How to determine if it's a friendly explorer or something far more sinister? Nothing less than a journey into the dangerous air currents will do. Join Emily as she navigates the strange landscapes of the upper air and the deadly menace that inhabits the sky world.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
It does sound good.
Yes, and I mean, it's Martha Wells, so you know it's going to be well written and probably a little bit silly and
good sci-fi.
Yes, very good sci-fi. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Superfan Annie.
Yay! So much fun. Thank you. I love hanging out with y'all.
I love you.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you so much for all your support that you give Fictional Hangover as well.
Yes.
And, Is there anything better than talking Gail Carriger? I mean,
No.
just
No.
no.
Gail
The only
Carriger and vampires. I mean, come on.
Gail
I think I think the only thing that would make it better is if we were all physically together and we had tea.
I really need a cuppa. I really need a
Same.
cuppa. I really do. My toes are cold. I have cute little shoes on and my toes are cold.
Oh gosh. Okay. So that's the end of this episode of Fictional Hangover. I'm Amanda.
I'm Claire.
And I'm Annie.
Join us next time as we discuss This Body's Not Big Enough for the Both of Us by Edgar Quintero. Look out for our Would You Rather polls and monthly challenges on social media. Don't forget about our book club on Discord, where you can chat about this book with us. Be sure to visit our shop on Redbubble at fictionalhangover.redbubble.com for all your favorite Fictional Hangover themed merchandise, and become a patron of ours on Patreon at patreon.com/fictionalhangover. Until next time, remember, the only cure for a fictional hangover is another book.
You can find us at fictionalhangover.com and follow us on all social media at Fictional Hangover. If you like this episode, check out our others and be sure to rate, review and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks for listening.